It would be naive of you to assume that vampires, with their immortality and powers, would be omnipotent under the night skies. Though on a first glance, kindred appear to have a firm grasp on the domains of which they control, a great beast lurks just behind the scenes. However, this is not a monster of supernatural power. Whilst vampires may fear werewolves or ward off mages, these creatures intertwined with the supernatural share a common desire to remain somewhat undetected. However, what supernatural kind has failed to perceive over the many thousands of years of their existence was something that lay just under their noses. The small creatures that they feed from, that they take sustenance and pleasure from. They would not dare usurp the unliving and monstrous beings above them, would they? Beyond vampiric influence, away from Camarilla corrupted politicians and bloodthirsty ghouls, a new power seeks to rid the world of vampiric kind, city by city. With vengeful wrath and burning fire, these mortals take their true faith and utilize it to tear down the ivory towers and to detonate the hives of vampire kind. Slowly but surely, they are making the world of the unliving that much more unlivable. These are the hunters of the Second Inquisition, and perhaps the biggest threat to vampire kind. If you enjoy dark tales like the one we will share tonight, or want to know more about the world of darkness, perhaps leave us a like and maybe a comment, and perhaps consider subscribing, as it helps the channel immensely. For those that seek luxuries of immortality by vampiric embrace, are often blind to the deadly forces which constantly pursue Cainites. Hunters, in their many forms, have been around for millennia, staking vampires or riddling werewolves with silver ammunition. They have been a persisting threat to the supernatural world, and are constantly a presence looming over their existence. However, the events under the umbrella of Inquisition have a particularly bloody history in the grander context of hunting within the world of darkness. Within medieval times, the Catholic Church harboured the first embers of knowledge about supernatural creatures, hastily dubbed the servants of Satan. Whilst this should not be confused with the Papal Inquisition, these early reactions to the existence of such beings would be the cause of centuries of burnings, stakings, and brutal murders which would span wherever the Church exerted influence. Whilst at first these events were often sporadic and oftentimes highly secretive, they would slowly culminate in a much larger effort to rid the world of all so-called demons. The First Inquisition would be the somewhat official start to this mortal-led witch hunt, coined by the Tremere Ashling Sturbridge as the Burning Times. The First Inquisition, which spanned from the 14th to the 16th century, was messy to say the least. The predominantly Vatican-led hunt would rage across Europe and would target those suspected of dealing with the supernatural indiscriminately. No one was truly safe from these hunters, as they themselves weren't entirely sure what they were combating, whether they were literal servants of Satan or great monsters, or indeed, and often most times, both. Many within vampiric circles who are unlucky enough to remember such times recall it as being apocalyptic and almost genocidal to supernatural kind. Whilst figures suggest that the death toll may have been greatly exaggerated in the case of vampire final deaths, the event is still revered as a lasting stain on kindred society, and their ever-growing distrust towards mortal civilization. These hunters, for all purposes, were normal people. Yet they were normal people driven by one singular burning goal: to purify the world of alleged abominations. Whilst the First Inquisition sparked desire for the Vatican to purge the world of supernatural creatures, the Second Inquisition highlights the Church's more lethal and perhaps more refined approach to culling their so-called evil adversaries. The Second Inquisition, unlike the First, operates outside of political and governmental jurisdiction. Within the world of darkness, you can never truly trust who may have the ear of a vampire, or who may be feeding off of the blood of some Camarilla elder. Anyone within a seat of power could be under the influence of the Masquerade. And thus, the Second Inquisition has taken a step back from dogmatic and wrathful crusades of open brutality and violence. Well, almost. Within this technological age, all it takes is a few indiscriminate searches to locate who your next target may be. Within 2004, the vampiric network ShrekNet was breached by the NSA and highlighted the true extent of kindred dealings under the veil of the Masquerade. This knowledge was quickly shared through mortal intelligence services and quickly passed through the Vatican's hands. Whilst in previous nights, the Vatican had relied off of their chosen warriors, the esteemed Society of Leopold, to fight their battles meticulously firsthand, they now had a vast wealth of empirical data about kindred locations, key figures, and prime targets. They now had the ability to cut the head off the snake without the world even taking a glance. The Second Inquisition, as such, is more of an umbrella of collaborating organizations which work together to hunt supernaturals. Within America, the NSA and the CIA spearhead operations, utilizing the specialized and highly secretive program known as First Light, tasked with ridding the US government of all vampiric influence. Within countries across the world, Brazil, France, and the UK to name but a few, high-seated organizations within the secret services work in the shadows, connected by their knowledge of the unliving, to destroy their hives and domains one by one. Many key strongholds of vampire society have already fallen to such operations. However, perhaps the most threatening presence within more recent nights is the evolution of the aforementioned Society of Leopold. The Vatican, for many years, has developed a force so efficient and deadly that they are capable of wiping out entire cities of vampires and purging even the strongest of elders underneath their wrathful might. Entity, the recanonized Society of Leopold, is perhaps the deadliest mortal force within the world of darkness, which seeks to hunt vampires unto extinction. Their usage of state-of-the-art equipment and strategies dwarf any other hunting organization. Their actions within the kindred-controlled city of Vienna, also known as the ruling seat of Clan Tremere, saw almost the entire vampire community destroyed, with the soldiers of Entity sweeping the city of almost all vampire existence and destroying their ancient seat of power, the Prime Chantry. Vienna is not the only example of such brutal raids. The City of London, home of the self-appointed Ventrue Queen of London, Anne Bowersley, fell to a much similar fate. The Entity were able to decimate and eradicate vampires from the streets of London with ease, with some even suspecting that Anne herself was subject to such a fate within the attack. It would seem that with every passing night, the tactics of the Vatican forces grow and evolve to entrap and destroy vampires. The Entity have been known to use a substance called Velum Sanctuari, known colloquially as red gas. Kept safe and secure by the Order of St. Leopold, the gas itself is harmless to humans. Its scent, if you're mortal enough to sustain it, is that of sandalwood and myrrh. Yet its pungence is far more pleasant than its horrifying effects on the unliving. A kindred, when swallowed by the gas, will begin to wither and decay, almost as if they are suffering the effects of exposure to sunlight. Whilst it is confirmed that the gas has been used within Entity operations in Prague, it has also been suspectedly utilized in Vienna, where it was said to have melted flesh from bone. Some, within the fog of this terrible weapon, have even heard screams and voices within the mist, allegedly invoking the effects of the keening, a supernatural phenomenon which occurs predominantly to vampires in areas of true faith, such as major holy sites. Once being exposed to the gas is deadly enough, the substance itself only separates the wheat from the chaff. Those vampires that are cunning enough to evade the gas are herded to a specific singular point, where, in their futile efforts to escape, will be ambushed by Entity squads, eventually meeting their final death. For those that say being a vampire is a luxury, the Vatican will make you think otherwise. In these nights, if you are of the line of Cain, you must always keep one eye open, because you can never be too sure who might be stalking you until your final death. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this installment all about the Second Inquisition. With Hunter V5 coming out soon, and Hunter the Parenting currently releasing new episodes, now is an extremely exciting time for Hunter lore and future content. So, if you got this far through the video, please feel free to leave a comment about what you want to see next. I love seeing your comments and I hope to respond to every single one. Any ideas are greatly welcome for future content. Also, if you really enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like or even subscribe. We're on our way to 200 subscribers and it's been an amazing journey so far. Seeing all of your support has been absolutely brilliant. So, until next time, stay safe and don't wander naively into the night.